Hey you guys, so we're live for the summer solstice final quarter activation. I'm in my pajamas, seriously in my pajamas, ready for bed. It's been a good day, and this is really the way that I'm finishing off the day. I know we haven't been doing late activations, we've been doing them earlier in the day, but you never know what you're gonna get. So I'm setting up now while everybody tunes in. Let me know where in the comments, let me know where in the world you're tuning in from. And as usual, I'm tuning in from Sedona, Arizona, USA. For those of you who are returning, welcome back. For those of you who are coming here for the first time, we do this every week. So if you enjoy this experience, please come again. And remember, each card represents a specific piece of archetypal wisdom or a different angle of the mind. So when we shuffle the deck, we want to think about that. We want to think about how when we touch each card, we're sort of waking up that part of the mind. London is in the house. Georgia's in the house. And feel free to share this video while we're live with your friends and family or someone who could use an uplifting message. Maybe you have a favorite group on Facebook. Feel free to get them in the portal live right now, or you can share this recording later. Also with those who aren't on Facebook, it will be on Instagram and YouTube, Rebecca Magic. So you can share there as well if you like. The final quarter activation is all about closing up a cycle. So last week we had the full moon, and that's when we saw the fullness of the picture of what's really been going on in our lives. And the final quarter is a week after that. So time to process and integrate and close up one cycle, and at the same time prepare for the new cycle. Remember that death is implicit in the beginning, and beginning is in life, and life is implicit in death. Beginning is implicit in the end is implicit in the beginning. They are one. So the way we close up one cycle will determine how we open up the next one. So that's what the final quarter is about, ending one cycle and beginning another. Okay, these are all shuffled. Going into my treasure chest to pull out the Hebrew cards. They look like this for those of you who've never seen this deck. And it works the same way. Each Hebrew letter represents a different piece of wisdom or a different angle of the mind, and they correlate to the different archetypes of the tarot as well. So when I shuffle them, I'm just saying hello to each of these parts and waking their energies up within my own mind, my own being, and our collective mind and our collective being. So thank you, archetypes, faces of the one, in advance for the message that's about to come through. It's final quarter, so it's all about, again, closing up one chapter so that we can start a new one. What we're hoping to receive here, what we're knowing we will receive here and giving thanks for in advance, is a map as to how to best move through what we are currently experiencing, both as individuals and as a collective consciousness. So thank you in advance. So, what is the main challenge for this week, right now, and in the days ahead until the new moon? What is our point of focus, our challenge and gift? What is something that is perhaps keeping our energy tied up in other things? Like, what is the energy that's representing the thing that needs to be faced in order to free up our power to work on the current focus? And then, of course, we'll pull with the Hebrew deck, we'll pull an ally for the week. Okay. Starting with the challenge and gift. Starting off with a major arcanum card. The Tower, also known as the Lightning. two names for the same archetype. And this is all about a turn of events, a major turn of events. Usually it's seen as something that's unexpected. However, when you live from a place of connectedness, from your thoughts to your reality, or your prayers to your manifestations, this energy doesn't necessarily come as a shock. The more you stay connected of the truth behind what's unfolding in our material reality, the more you stay aware of how your thoughts create your reality, the more you will recognize certain patterns that will determine when these shifts will take place. So it's like you learn how to read the signs, you're in tune, you start to be able to recognize when something like this is coming, and so you can have that ability to plan. You can have that ability to see ahead, that foresight, which brings wisdom, so that you can begin to accept the experience now, which you can only do if you trust in divine order. You can begin to accept that experience before it unfolds, therefore taking control of your life the best you can. Therefore aligning yourself with what is inevitable, and most gracefully moving through that experience. So if this is the current challenge and gift, the Tower, also known as the Lightning, we're about to go through a turn of events, or rather we're going through that right now, because this is the current focus. So either you're in the middle of this big mess right now, or you feel it coming. Either way, we're all experiencing this in some way in our lives, in some dimension in our lives. And it's a time right now to fully embrace whatever that change is. So if you're on the shadow side of this challenge, if you're feeling more challenged than successful in this experience right now that we're all experiencing, chances are you're feeling like you're in fear, you feel out of control of your life, you feel like something really bad is going to happen, maybe you feel it in your gut. You fear the worst. You feel like a lot of the effort or work that you've done in your life is about to be lost. Maybe you feel like something's going to be lost, like you have to give something up. So that would look like how you're experiencing this energy if you're in the shadow aspect of it right now. Does anybody relate to that? Does anybody resonate with that? It can feel like a very scary time. And then for some of us, it also can feel, it's the same archetype, but we're experiencing it more on the positive side. So it can feel like this: oh, I feel free. I know that was the life I had, but I'm ready to leave it behind. Or I'm embracing this big new decision in my life. I'm making the most of this shift in my reality. I'm even going as far as to look deeply into the experience and see how I've created this, or how I've asked for this, how maybe this is an answered prayer that I had forgotten about. I'm noticing that there's some spam going on. There's a person here who's saying they're drawn to you guys and want to give you readings. I'm just going to pause really quick and let you guys know I never do that. And if somebody's doing that on the page, it's a scam. There are fake pages out there who are also impersonating me. So just, this is my only page, and I will never reach out to offer you a reading. I wait to be asked, and that's not the way I do things. So I'm sorry that everybody's being spammed by this person right now. If anybody knows how I can get them out of here or wants to report them. Oh, I got it. It's the first time I ever did that. Amazing. After all these years, you guys, this is the first time I ever was able to figure that out. Okay, getting back into the flow. So if you're on that lighter end of things, you're seeing this as a positive change. Overall, you're embracing it and not resisting it, okay? So it's all about looking at right now, looking at how we're dealing with change in our lives. Are we accepting it? Are we denying it? How can we fully accept that which we know is inevitable and begin to prepare now to open up to that and do our best to consciously participate in the process? Okay? So where are you at on the spectrum? Either way, what we're all being called to do is really connect our thoughts to the things in our reality. Thoughts to things, prayers to manifestations. Why could this be happening? Find the silver lining or the divinity in the experience. Understand that if it's happening, and do your best to work with that energy. That's what carries you through these intense times. Change can be scary, but it's the only constant in life. And so sometimes kids feel, for example, young kids will feel scared for a change, but then, everything gets better, but that moment can be really scary. So, even looking at your inner child, what can I tell that inner child who's afraid of change? What traumas have I experienced in the past that might be causing me to respond to change in this way? And how can I now, as a healed adult, perhaps, look at how that's been a pattern in my life and set a new code, set a new pattern for how I'm going to respond to any change in my life, big or small? Because how we respond to one thing is how we respond to everything. So however we respond to change, and hopefully we're doing it consciously, like with our conscious awareness, and if we do that a few times, we start to train our subconscious to respond that way naturally to all changes, big and small. So it's very important to look at what's changing in your life and ask yourself, how do I handle change, big or small? Because how I handle one change is how I'm handling every change. So use this big change in your life, no matter how shocking, to really rise above the whole picture, to really see the whole picture and say, wow, no matter what the change is, all this stuff is temporary anyway. It's my response. It's only ever my response that does something to the neural pathways in my brain that train it to then do that again and again and again. And that's what matters. That's what matters. Okay, so this is the challenge this week. Accepting whatever is very new in our lives and really embracing it and making the best of it. In short, what we need to leave behind. That's very interesting. We have 11. So we had 16 and 11, 2 major arcanum cards. Yes, I do make some changes on my cards. You can ask me for my course or my books, and I talk about why. Going beyond the manipulations of modern tarot. So card 11 is Strength, also known as the Enchantress. If we're here to leave this behind, what does that look like? Let's look at them together. So this is something that's consuming part of our energy that needs to be freed up to be put toward this current challenge. What does that look like for us? Okay, so in this stage of things, in this part of the story, let's see how I could best explain this. This is 11. You have 10, 11, and 12. Tarot is a sequence, right? So it's a story, it's a sequence. So if you're looking at 10, it's the part of the story where you're recognizing the patterns of all things, the patterns in nature and how you're one with it. You learn how to observe those patterns so that you can take the wheel of your life, right? 10 is Wheel of Fortune. And then you do whatever you have to do. In the next card, Strength, you do whatever you have to do to purify, stay connected to Source, and strengthen yourself in that highest way so that you can remain with your hands on the wheel, the previous card. And then after this, you have 12. It's the Sacrifice, it's the Martyr, the Hanged Man. And that's all about giving up what you have to give up in order to maintain your connection to Source, which is Strength. Okay, this is a mini tarot lesson. So if this is in the past, it's saying perhaps it's time now to free up some of the energy that you've been putting toward this maybe spiritual space that you've been in, very spiritual space, lofty space. Could be that you're very much in your head. It's time to come back to reality and face the changes. True strength is how you use your connection to Source. It's not just your connection to Source, it's what you do with it, right? Because everything is about the actions we take. That's why we're in this world of action. Kabbalah teaches this. So it's not about just staying in that spiritual lofty space and connecting to Source. It's also about what am I going to do with that power, that energy when I have it. Okay, so let me just paint the picture for you how it might look in our society. It could look like somebody who's really trying to do better, be better, shift their consciousness to a higher dimension, a higher vibration, and they're very much on their spiritual path, but then this big thing comes and it feels like a train wreck in their lives. It feels like the rug has been pulled out from under them. Because true spirituality is when you put it into practice, when you actualize those truths. So if we're so in that process, we forget what we're actually doing it for. We end up being consumed by the emotions that are involved with an experience such as this. We feel helpless, powerless, because yeah, we're connected to Source, but we're not taking charge of our reality. We're not doing anything with that energy. So make sure that you're practicing what you preach, that what you're learning, you're actualizing, so that when something like this happens, You remember your true strength, which is your connection to source. And so then you therefore remember that everything is a part of the divine plan. You have more acceptance. You open up to the shift. And see here, the lightning coming in, you open up for a reset. So another thing that I'm seeing, another message I'm seeing is this. We can try so hard to be spiritual. We can try so hard to connect to the divine in the mind, you know, or like going to church or a temple or yoga or whatever. But it's how we let that energy move through us. Check it out, the electricity moving through, the energy going in, that divine energy coming in from the crown, going into the body, which is what this all metaphorically represents. That's a real reset. When we can open up to what's happening right here, right now, and grow and learn through that. That's how we ascend. That's how we reach higher states of consciousness, by being present in the here and now and navigating this very real life experience that is multidimensional from a place of true connection to source and trust in source, so that you put that into action. It's faith in action. And you get that reset, you get that supercharge, that Kundalini activation, whatever you want to call it, through the experience, right? This is what the Gnostics would teach. It's through experience that we can actualize the wisdom. And this is true. You can be so busy trying to be pure and holy and fast and do whatever you do and try to connect to source. But how are you responding to life? How are you showing up for life right now? How are you handling the experiences that are coming at you, the experiences that you're facing? Because it's like you're trying to get that like supercharge, you're trying to connect to source and get that power, but you can get that by being present in your experiences and consciously directing your will for good. And then when you do that, you open up for that power to come in and reset you. So you don't have to purify by trying so hard. You purify by being that innocence, that purity in action. Allowing that to come through the way in which you respond to your experiences, particularly ones that feel like the rug's being pulled out from under you. Ones that feel really hard, really difficult. And you want to freak out. Like when you lose your phone. You know, it's like, my phone, it's the end of the world. Or like somebody has glasses on their head. Where are my glasses? Car keys lost. And then I'm making light of the situation, okay? There are much darker things that we all go through in this human experience that I don't have to get into, but we all experience them every day. And it's how we choose to show up in those moments and how we choose to respond to life in those moments that will prove just how connected we are. And if we practice what we preach in those moments, if we practice the teachings and actually go out into the world and act on them, then every one of those acts becomes a spiritual reset, a supercharge, a cleansing that we don't need to go and seek. We just need to go and be and do. And through those acts of goodness and acts of kindness, we receive that light. So this is a Kabbalistic teaching as well, that you cannot receive the light of wisdom without doing acts of kindness. This is a very important Kabbalistic concept. You cannot receive the light of wisdom. Listen closely. You cannot receive the light of wisdom unless you are doing acts of kindness, okay? It's like you're on a bicycle that's generating light, right? Electricity, light. And when you're moving, it's getting stronger and stronger, but when you stop, it kind of, dies down. You can't just do one act of kindness and expect the light to take over the world. You have to keep it going. It builds with momentum. And that's exactly what this card is showing you here. It's exactly what it's showing you here. You don't have to try so hard to stay connected to the source. You just have to remember that you are always, and in that remembrance, go out there into the world. Be in what you would consider your mundane life. Even in the mundane details are plenty of opportunities. Every moment, every day, plenty of opportunities to receive that reset, to receive that light. So it becomes effortless when you live your everyday life, but with that remembrance. Okay, let's see what the ally of the week is. I had a feeling it was going to be this one. This is the Hebrew letter Gimel, and it's the third letter of the Aleph Bet. And remember, it's flipped on the camera, so if you want to see what it really looks like, you want to Google the letter Gimel, you would just type in to Google Hebrew letter Gimmel, Gimel. And there are a few different ways to interpret this, but I'm going to give this one because this is what I was seeing in my mind's eye a moment ago. This looks like a foot. It looks almost like a high heel, right? Like a sassy shoe, but it looks like a foot. It's known to look like a foot. And so even like a little hoof, right? And the next letter after Gimel, and remember, the Hebrew alphabet is like the tarot, it's a sequence. The next letter is the Dalet, and it's symbolized by a hieroglyphic symbol of a door. So it's like a foot going to the door, a foot like reaching toward the opportunity. It's also 3, which represents action. Okay, so this really summarizes everything that we were just talking about. It's about going toward the opportunity, taking action. Everything is about the actions that we take, acts of goodness, good deeds. This letter is associated with giving charity, running to help. Okay, so it's really like asking you Gimel, giving. And 3, it has a numerical value of 3. What actions are you taking to give? What good deeds are you running to do? This is all about Gimel. Okay, so it's saying that this is the ally this week. The Gimel is telling us that's what you got to do. It's about what you're doing, not just sitting on some mountaintop, doing your best to stay focused to God so that you stay connected. No, it's like it's already there. The connection is already there. The more time you spend doing that, the more time you just waste. It's about getting to that point of knowing that you are one with that source, remaining connected, and going and doing something with that. Run with that idea. Run toward the door, the Dalet of opportunity. Because when you act, when you move, you have experiences. You show up, you be present, and you allow that source that you're always connected to come through you. And that is the lightning coming in. This crown is you knocking that false ego off your head, opening up to receive that light so it can fill you and do what needs to be done. These guys falling out looks pretty scary, but that's just the negative or parts that no longer serve falling away. And they're liberated. It doesn't have to be scary. It's all about perspective. The devil comes right before. This is about the light coming in and resetting that negativity in the building, in the house, in the body, in the mind. Okay, so the devil comes right before 15, then you have 16, a reset, turn of events, because whatever you were doing in that devil phase was obviously unsustainable and inevitably going to fail anyway. So that's what that's about. Okay, so the Gimel is saying, go do something with this strength. Don't just sit in that space and know you are connected. Okay, with that connectedness, what do you vow to do? What are some changes that you need to embrace right now with that perspective? Because if you're really connected, you're trusting, you're opening up to what is in life. Okay, so if you really are in this space and you really have that strength and you really trust, show it by taking good actions, acts of goodness, acts of kindness, even in a time that can be trying, even in a time that can be hard and mysterious and unknown. That's such a good gauge too, right? I just want to point this out before we close up. That's a good gauge to see where you're at, because if we are emotionally stable and centered, that should, we all hope, right, look like we're doing acts of goodness, acts of kindness, acts of service. And so when we're not doing those acts, that could be a sign or red flag to look within and say, what's keeping me stuck in the darkness? What's keeping me from wanting to serve? Because we are at our highest frequency when we're of service to the one, right? So it's interesting to see, like, well, how can I rest there in that space of emotional, spiritual, mental centeredness and well-being, to where I have my cup so full that I can still be kind and still do good in times of suffering. Because whether I'm suffering or someone else is suffering, we're all one. So how can I be more steady in my goodness and in my kindness and in the acts that I do in those areas? And that's a good character gauge. It's a good way to see when you're in denial, see when you're deceiving yourself, and really commit to being of service. That way, when you are in hard times, you'll still be able to stay in that space of centeredness. Or when someone else is in hard times, you'll still be able to. And when you're having great times, you still stay humble because you stay in that space. You understand there's none of this. It's like really staying centered and doing acts of kindness and goodness. Being kind, being good is a really good way to check oneself and see, you know, how am I being consistent? All right, you guys, thank you so much for joining for this final quarter activation. I'll see you next week for the new moon. Happy embracing these changes. Remember, show that strength. Know that this strength is within you. Stay connected. Know you're connected. Just remember. And show what you got. Show just how you can embrace what life is bringing to the table right now. How can you embrace it from the highest perspective? How can you embrace it with the most open of hearts? And how can you be good? Be soft, be good, be kind in a time where it's hard. It's the hardest. You're going through a lot. I know you got this. I'll see you guys next week for the new moon. And I know it's winter solstice and on the other side of the world, so happy winter solstice, happy summer solstice to those in this part of the world. And remember, guys, I'm also on YouTube and Instagram, Rebecca Magic, so the recording will go there for anybody you want to share this with who's not on Facebook. I still do have a video course on the major arcanum cards for anyone that's interested. There's a 60 to 90 minute video class on each of the major arcanum cards. So if you want access, just reach out to me, private message me. And then, of course, I book one-on-one readings. Reach out if you want my books, if you want to understand the archetypes from my perspective, if you want to learn to read tarot, or just learn how to access those angles of your own mind. It's my passion. It's all that I talk about and write about. All right, you guys, thanks for being here. I'll see you soon. Shalom.